wish you Merry Christmas. I wish you Merry Christmas. You have a Christmas on fire. I wish you Merry Christmas. You have a Christmas on fire. I wish you Merry Christmas. You have a Christmas on fire. Welcome to my Christmas time. Welcome to the party on the ice. Come on, baby, on the snow. Come on, baby, feel it on your face. You won't get cold. You just gotta be up. Rock it all night long, baby. Sing the jingle, sing it if you know it. Sing for me, get ready for the night of fire. I'll do the Christmas time. I'll do the days of your praise. You made me feel the night of fire. Here comes the holy night. If you do breaking the law, you have your presence. Night of fire. I'll do the Christmas time. I'll do the days of your praise. You made me feel the night of fire. Here comes the holy night. If you do breaking the law, you have a Christmas on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Full Throttle. And first off, Merry Christmas to everyone watching this on December 25th, which is the day I've recorded and uploaded this. But anyways, today, since the new update for Horizon, which is now known as Full Throttle, has new physics, I have to create a new drift tutorial to replace my old one. First off, car selection. You need to choose a car that has good acceleration and is rear-wheel drive, just like before. Well, back then all the cars were all-wheel drive, but now there are proper drivetrains. This Corvette is my new drift car because it is powerful and it is rear-wheel drive. You might be, if you're wondering why I'm no longer drifting the Supra, I'm going to get into that later. But basically now, a lot of the lower-end cars, which you used to be able to drift, can't drift anymore because they can't accelerate enough and they can't lose traction as often. So once you've picked your drift car, the car that is rear-wheel drive and has good acceleration, you want to get weight reduction, which is helpful but not necessary. Engine, upgrade the engine as much as you can. That's really important. I'd say that's necessary. Transmission, not very necessary, but you can buy it if you want. Handling upgrades. I'd say this is necessary because because if you want to be able to correct your car, you want to have handling upgrades to help. Most importantly is, of course, tire friction. You want to set it at 0. Every time you come back into the customs, though, the slider kind of bugs out and moves towards the right a bit, so you kind of want to check that every time you go to the customs in a drift car. Make sure it stay at 0. Once that's over, my plate is kind of weird, so I'm going to change that. But yeah, once that's over, you have a drift car. So, most important, I'm just going to say this again, the most important things are tire friction to set at 0, weight reduction, and engine. Everything else, transmission, brakes, and handling. Actually, no, handling is important as well. Not weight reduction, handling. Weight reduction, brakes, and transmission are not necessary. Now, as you can see, spacebar doesn't always work because of another bug. Anyways, as you can see, my Corvette was losing the rear end much more often now. So, I prefer to drift in manual so that you can keep your revs up, but that doesn't mean that you can't drift in automatic. So, it's really your choice whether or not you want to drift in manual or automatic, but I just prefer manual because I think being able to control which gear you're in will really help you hold drifts for longer. What this really comes down to is when to counter steer and what speed you should be entering in. Normally on the streets here, you should probably not be going too fast. If you're using miles per hour, I'd say keep it under 100 miles per hour, or maybe even 80 at that point. And if you're using kilometers per hour, that's let's see, 100 miles per hour is like 142 kilometers per hour. I think I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, keep keep it at a certain speed, and also counter steering is also something else. As soon as you lose the rear end, you want to counter steer, but you don't want to do it too quick, because then you'll just straighten yourself out right away, and if you do it too late, you will lose your rear end, which means you wipe out. Now, I mentioned earlier that you cannot drift with all-wheel drive cars, so I'm going to show that right now. I'm going to bring out my Nissan GTR from, I'm pretty sure you've seen it before. Last video I made, it was before the full throttle update. It had a drift setup, and it still does right now. This is basically set up the same way as the Corvette. It has engine upgrades, it has steering upgrades, and it has tire friction at 0. But as you can see here, it definitely does not slide as much as the Corvette. You can see that if you lose the rear end, the car just stops and accelerates again right away, and it just doesn't seem to want to drift like the Corvette does. It doesn't want to slide for very long. So all-wheel drive cars are all like this because the front wheel is turning, so it's pulling the rear end back in. Don't even get me started on front-wheel drive cars. Those things can't drift at all. And now I'm going to go back to the Supra for a second here to show you that lower-end cars like the Supra here can't drift anymore because they don't have the acceleration to lose traction. They can still drift on downhill areas, but it's just too situational for me, so I'm going to move on to the Corvette now and say goodbye to the Supra, which got me into drifting in this game. Oh, and one more. Sidewalks actually have less traction than the road, so if your rear wheels end up on the sidewalk, you're gonna probably end up spinning out. So if you do drift and you end up on the sidewalk, try not to let both your tires touch it, because then you're gonna spin out really easily. And well, that's it. All that's left is a lot of practice. If you're going too fast, you'll end up wide. If you're going too slow, you'll straighten out too early. If you turn too early, you'll straighten out. If you turn too late, you'll wipe out. So all that's left is a lot of practice. Hope you guys have fun drifting in full throttle. See you guys around.